I am just looking forward to working with the team there, dealing with them as a team on what needs to be done urgently, looking at the handover report that my predecessor would have said. And I am not sure if I'll have problems because my predecessor also comes from the same party I come from, so it will be policies that I'm familiar with around issues of defense, issues of security. So I think I'm fine. Fortunately, strange enough, the finance minister just said to me now that as soon as it was settled, there's money which has been identified and it's going to be allocated to defense. So I think part of our problems will be attended or resolved. Not fully, but I just think it will be a beginning of sorting out those resource-related matters.
I think what we have to do is get back to basics. We have to get the basics right at Home Affairs because this is a department that touches every single South African's lives. In fact, it's the first arm of the state, the first part of the state that we interact with when we are born because our parents need to get a birth certificate, and it is the last element of the state that we interact with when we pass away and people need to get that certificate. So it's a very personal, very intimate relationship actually between this department and the citizens. And it's also the department that literally makes us South Africans. It gives us our identity as citizens and as people of South Africa. So I'm very aware of that connection, and I think the dignity that this department actually is supposed to bring to citizens is something that I would like to put front and center. The point obviously though is that there is no magic wand, and the problems are very deep and they are systemic. So I don't think anyone should expect that these problems are going to be solved overnight. However, I think if we can get the dial moving in the right direction, create the sense among South Africans that it can get better, even at Home Affairs, that will provide real momentum to this government as well, and the idea that there is hope for the future. So in terms of priorities, I think starting with very basic things like managing queues, business process reform inside offices to make sure that we shorten those queues, make it a more bearable experience, at the same time also really investing and embracing technology. I think we've got great opportunities on that front to relieve the pressure on offices, to speed up the process and really just make it work in a way that's more efficient. So those are two immediate examples.
It's a highly corrupt department. How do you get a grip on that?
Yes, well, I mean, obviously the message has to be from day one that there's zero tolerance for corruption. That is very clear, and I've already met with my department yesterday and made that point very clear to them. At the same time, though, I think it's important to say that there are officials who try very hard under extremely difficult circumstances. I can't imagine a more difficult job than sitting at one of those desks and receiving customers who've been standing in a queue since 4 in the morning, 6 hours later, and then having to tell them that the system is offline. I mean, that is a terrible thing. And I think it also is important, therefore, that we improve the working environment for good officials, make it actually possible for them to excel, recognize them where they do well, and make sure that we get rid of this idea of system offline. It's become almost a South African saying, and we need the system online. We don't need it offline. So I think you actually also improve the working conditions for officials there, and I'm very committed to doing that. At the same time, though, absolutely zero tolerance for corruption, making sure we utilize all the levers at our disposal to speed up disciplinary processes, to refer things to bodies like the SIU or other entities to make sure that we clean that up with a very clear message.
Our international perspective is based on the Constitution, our national interest document, and I think even many global players, both the South and the North, they can now see why the case was necessary at the ICJ, and we have seen them shifting. And you are aware that the President had a call yesterday with the President of the US. So these are issues that are of principle that we stood on, and the shifting views in this matter, it's helping to show that South Africa's positions from the beginning was correct with regards to the ICJ matter, the humanitarian issues. But we will continue to play our role in the multilateral institutions, the UN, Agenda 2063, the AU, including our own domestic situation, SADC as a region. So we will continue to fight for that integration and ensuring that the Africa Free Trade Agreement becomes a reality. It's implemented for the benefit of the entire African continent and the region, including our country, particularly on issues of manufacturing, integration, and the issues of digital transformation.